Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Jaquel, the world's worst YouTuber, coming back with a second installation of the IDGAF I don't give a fuck videos. And since this is the third time now I've tried to shoot this, I've come to the stark realization that I've forgotten how to YouTube. Now, what is the point of the IDGAF videos? I can't quite remember because I had forgotten that there was a first one to begin with. It's been a while. So I'm going to just say that the purpose of it is to not give a fuck and just share my thoughts and try not so desperately hard to present myself for whatever reason to the camera and just say what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is, I really want a pair of Doc Martens. Doc Martens are a staple of alt subculture footwear. But for whatever reason, I have talked myself out of getting a pair. First of all, they're fucking expensive. The cheapest pair I can find that are actually a decent look are like $100 minimum. Secondly, apparently the Dr. Martin was a Nazi, and we don't want to support those motherfuckers around here, no sir. And I believe we are at number 3 as to reasons why I talked myself out of it. Apparently they are notoriously terrible to try and break in. Like, it takes forever and it just is destroying a person's foot trying to break them in and get comfortable in them. So I'm just like, yo, I've already got fallen arches anyway. What am I going to try and make myself worse? But at this point, my body is so riddled with arthritis. What's it really matter anyway? The point is, I still want a pair of Doc Martens, regardless of how many times I tell myself, well, there's a reason why I shouldn't. The problem is I'm fucking broke. So if you could, please consider supporting the channel, as always. And if not, I hope that you enjoy this video regardless. The point was not to just let everybody know that I want a pair of Doc Martens. At some point, I will get a pair of Doc Martens. But since the fact that they are so expensive and I am so incredibly broke and I need to try to be an adult, let me compose myself. I think words were supposed to come out of there. It just didn't happen. You see, how I managed to just barely get by is to point to the thingy and say, please consider supporting the channel. Whether it be here or over on the clock app, this is what I do. And it is just enough for me to get by. And if you didn't see the last video that I uploaded to this platform, the big red play button, I called it My Liminal Hell because I've been stuck in a liminal cyclical hell. So I tell the story of my 2022 and how I managed to get here to where I am in the very beginning of 2023. And now I am angry enough to break out of the liminal cyclical hell because I'm the one that got myself here to begin with. And in order to do that, I'm not really going to be able to undo what I've done by doing the same thing that did the thing that I've done. So I need to do something different to undo the thing that I've done, or in the very least, cut off the cord and walk away. So now I want to do other things, like make more content on this platform, because at one point in my life, I had a lot of fun doing this. I felt like I could get somewhere with this. But the fun fact of the matter is, I got more subscribers to my YouTube channel being a TikToker than I ever did being a YouTuber. Kind of funny how that worked out. So now I'm thinking about how I can do things differently, and one of the things that I decided to do was bring the title of the world's worst YouTuber out of retirement. I used to call myself the world's worst YouTuber, just as a sort of little silly, goofy lampshading, if you will, just being a silly, goofy girl, you know, the usual. But I had forgotten and lost sight of why I used the term the world's worst YouTuber, and that was to remind myself that I don't need incredibly fancy and expensive equipment that I can't afford to be able to get by doing what I'm doing and still make cool content. It's not going to be what all of the other big name YouTubers are doing, but I can still make content with what I got, even if it is less than up to snuff, to be able to make myself feel as if I am a pretty enough princess to make good YouTube content. And for those of you that did see my last video, My Liminal Hell, I thought that was a really cool video. I inspired myself to start making content again. I really liked that video. I thought it was cool. All I had was my phone camera, a good idea, and a video editing software that was just good enough to get the job done. And that's why I brought the title, The World's Worst YouTuber, back, because I need to remind myself to stop being being such a tryhard. Oh my God, I complicate things for myself all the time, thinking that, oh, I can't do this until I have this check mark. I can't do this until I have this check mark. All I'm doing is holding myself back. That's all I'm really fucking doing. Another thing that I want to start doing again is the internet adventures, which started off as the coffee table internet adventures, but the coffee table broke, and kitchen table internet adventure didn't really have the same ring to it, so it's just Jaquel's internet adventures, where it was, I take an idea that's a little cool, a little spooky, and I just dive into it. Somewhere along the way, I thought that I needed to do all of this research, but the point of the adventure was to dive in and bring the audience with me, something that would be cool for like a Twitch stream or a podcast. But I don't know the first thing about doing either one of those things, so that's something that'll come along the way. That's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is something to do later, let's look at what we got now. I could do those videos again, but I was telling myself I need to do all of this research and I need to present the research in a very specific, particular way, when the first couple, all it was just taking an idea, a concept, and wanting to look more into it, and that's what we made. I didn't present it a certain way. Holy shit, how difficult have I made things for myself, got the idea in my head, oh, that's so much effort, and then talked myself out of it. I've done this with basically everything at this point. No wonder I'm stuck in a liminal cyclical hell. Now this next part is pretty much just going to be spitballing ideas with no rhyme, reason, or direction, just a whole bunch of stuff that hopefully at some point will make sense. But something I've been doing in my spare time since a little bit before Christmas is listening to my favorite podcast, The Last Podcast on the Left, where they talk about all of these cool, spooky, creepy things that got me into the things that I do. There's a whole episode about Ouija boards. There is a 3-part series that they have about Skinwalker Ranch. They've got a 3-part series on the Men in Black. All of these cool, spooky, occult-related, cryptid-related, UFOs, big, all of this shit that when I was a kid made me go, I want more. They're talking about it. And it's been inspiring me again and giving me my own jumping points to make content. I actually think it would be better to do it here, which is something that I could do with the Jaquel's Internet Adventures. It's not really going to work on the clock app when I am limited to 3 minutes at most. So that'd be something really cool to do here. But I've been limiting myself and telling myself there's only a certain number of things to do. What the hell was I saying? Alright, Last Podcast on the Left. They have a coffee that is Eyes of the Mothman, Red Eye coffee, something like that. I do coffee reviews. If I were able to get my hands on a bag of their coffee, I could maybe get their attention, or in the very least... I'm laughing at myself. Hang on. Let me start that over. I'm leaving this in, but I'm going to start this thought over. They have a coffee. I do coffee reviews. If I were able to get my hands on some of that coffee, I could do the coffee review and have a lot of fun doing it. And maybe somewhere along the way, maybe I'll get their attention. One can only hope. But speaking of coffee reviews, I have another review that I want to do. I had managed to find a way to Walmart the other day, and I found a bag of Devil Mountain Coffee Company Black Label. It definitely gives me the same sort of vibes as like Death Wish, but it's a different company. And if I were to make a podcast, I always thought that maybe Devil's Tools would be a good name for the podcast, because I would like to talk about magic, mythology, and rock and roll / heavy metal. All the things that when I was a child was told were the devil's tools. Just pin that for later. I told you I was spitballing, right? Devil Mountain Coffee Company. So I'm going to do a review of this one because sometimes the problem is people want to try these gourmet coffees, but it's $20 and they don't want to take the gamble to find out whether or not it's worth the $20, $30, $40. Okay, 40 is a little high, But still, that was sort of the reason I want to do the coffee reviews in the first place, was get the coffees that are more specialty, novelty, spend the extra few bucks to get them and review them, and with my opinion, maybe somebody can figure out whether or not they want to spend the extra money to get something like the $20 Devil Mountain Coffee or the last podcast on the left, Mothman Red Eye Blend. I just think that would be really cool. So if you want to see something like that, please consider supporting the channel. So, I'm doing what I can to try and break out of this liminal cyclical hell, which means more time focused here and in my own home doing other things other than obsessively making content for Clock App, hoping that somebody will see the thingy and possibly donate to the channel so I can feed myself. So now for anybody that might be asking, well, why don't you just find a real job? One, I've got little to no experience that I can actually put into the workforce that will actually get me some kind of gainful employment that I can hope to get by. Honestly, pointing to the thingy makes more than minimum wage would. And that still really isn't enough. Just enough to survive, and that's about it. Reason number 2. I am a transgender DID system who is on the spectrum, which means I am autistic. I am also a person who copes with borderline personality disorder, and you never know which version of me you're going to get at a given time. With an incredibly terrible work history experience, would you want to hire a mentally ill, physically disabled individual like myself, knowing that I'm not going to stick around for a long time? Probably not. Also, believe it or not, I am somewhat of a patriot myself, and I believe in the American dream. And in this post-COVID dystopic hellscape, the way that things are really aren't going to work for long. And in the new horizons that are starting to crack upon a new beginning for our country and our world, I see hope. I see hope for the future. And now, at a time like this, I see hope to be able to live the American dream, so long as I am able to do it my way, and continue to ask people to please consider supporting the channel, and that way I can build my dream and live on my terms. And at some point in the future, maybe I too can have a house with a white picket fence and an apple pie waiting for me on the windowsill when I come home. If not, I at least want to say I tried. I went down swinging and I fucking tried. And that just really isn't going to happen with all of the shortcomings that I know are actual limitations that I would have to overcome in a workforce that I know is not going to compensate or make accommodations. So please consider supporting the channel. On that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. If you're still with me, thank you for listening. So what's up next for Jaquel? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this is going. I never have known, but at least now I have the scaffoldings, a framework of something that looks somewhat like an idea, and I am making an attempt to climb out of the liminal cyclical hell. As always, take care and much love.